Hi guys! In this video, we will discuss the rules on how to draw Lewis structures of covalent and ionic compounds. Here are the following objectives. First, to understand the octet rule, to explain why atoms bond in the first place, and to predict how many bonds in a given atom is likely to form. Number 2, to draw the Lewis structures step by step for both ionic and covalent compounds, and including some cases where the octet rule does not apply. And number 3, once a molecule can be drawn more than one way, we use formal charge as a tool to figure out which structure is the most plausible. So, why do atoms bond? It comes down to stability. Atoms must achieve the electron configuration of the noble gases, where it has completely filled outer shell of valence electrons. And there are three ways an atom can get the noble gas configuration. It can either lose electron entirely, which leaves behind a positively charged cation. Atoms can also gain electrons, becoming a negatively charged anion. Or if neither atoms want to fully give up electrons, they can share them instead, and that's the case for covalent bonding. So which path an atom takes depends on where it sits on the periodic table, and that's exactly what determines the bond type. Here's the three bond types side by side. We have ionic bonding. This is generally between a metal and a non-metal. And ions that form are held together because electrons are fully transferred from the metal to the non-metal. And then metallic bonding is metal with metal, and it's also charged, but the electrons involved are delocalized. It has sea of electrons delocalized in a lattice of positive metal ions. Then lastly, we have covalent bonding. This is between non-metal with non-metal. No charged particles are involved, just shared electrons between specific atoms. And regardless of the type of bond, we have the same driving force, and that's the octet rule. So it states that atoms are most stable with 8 valence electrons around them, except hydrogen. And note that carbon, nitrogen, oxygen, and fluorine are the strict followers of octet rule. Also, the octet rule is predictive. So if you count how many electrons an atom needs to complete its octet, that tells you how many bonds it's going to form. In Lewis structure, the element symbol represents its nucleus and core electrons, and dots drawn around it represent the valence electrons. So the valence electrons are the ones actually available for bonding. So for example, oxygen, let's consider oxygen. It's in group 16 of the periodic table, so it will have 6 valence electrons. So writing the Lewis structure, we draw 6 dots around O, and once we start bonding atoms together, some of those dots turn into shared pairs sitting between two symbols, and the rest will stay as lone pairs. So the whole point of the Lewis structure is to let you account for every single valence electron in a molecule. So which is exactly why getting the valence electron count is the first step. Let's apply this to an actual ionic compound. For example, magnesium bromide or MgBr2. Magnesium is in group 2 of the periodic table, so it starts with 2 valence electrons to lose to reach the noble gas configuration of neon, and that leaves it as Mg2+. On the other hand, bromine is in group 17, so it starts with 7 valence electrons and only needs one more to complete its octet. So it picks up a single electron and becomes Br- or bromide. Since magnesium is giving away 2 electrons total, it needs 2 separate bromine atoms to achieve them, 1 electron each. That's why the formula is MgBr2, and remember also the criss-cross method discussed in nomenclature of ionic compounds. Then, to write the Lewis structure, bromide ion is drawn with brackets around it and a full octet of 8 dots, while magnesium ion, having lost 2 electrons entirely, is drawn with no dots. And we will place +2 charge for magnesium. We will place coefficient 2 for Br minus, so the number of bromide ions in the formula unit will be reflected. So this is the Lewis structure for MgBr2. Covalent compounds form covalent bonds, and as discussed earlier, neither atom fully gives up its valence electron the way it would in an ionic bond. Instead, the shared electrons occupy the region of space between the two nuclei, and both nuclei are attracted to that shared electron density, which is what holds the molecule together. So the simplest possible example is hydrogen, H2, two hydrogen atoms, each contributing 1 electron, sharing that pair that we draw as a single bond. Here's the steps on drawing Lewis structures. First, start by counting up every valence electron available. But if you have an ion, remember to adjust the count for the charge. So you add electrons for an ion and you subtract for a cation. So for example, you got the total valence electron for NH4 plus. In the end, you will minus 1 electron since you have NH4 plus. Next, pick the central atom. It's whichever atom is least electronegative, since that atom is the most willing to be surrounded by other atoms. Note that some atoms are always terminal, such as hydrogen and fluorine. And next, from there, sketch the skeleton, connect every bonded pair with a single bond, and start filling in lone pairs. Terminal atoms first to get everyone to an octet. And then the last two steps are for checking. If you have used more electrons than you actually have, convert some lone pairs into additional bonding pair to fix the central atom's count. And if you have got electrons left over after satisfying other atoms, those extra electrons become additional lone pair on the central atom. Let's apply the steps to draw the Lewis structure for NCl3 or nitrogen trichloride. Step 1, count the valence electrons. So nitrogen is group 15, so it has 5 valence electrons. For Cl, it's group 17, and each of the 3 chlorine atoms have 7 valence electrons. So 5 plus 21 will give us 26 valence electrons in total. Step 2, nitrogen is less electronegative than chlorine, so nitrogen will be the central atom. Step 3, the skeleton will be straightforward. 3 chlorines arranged around the central nitrogen. And step 4, 3 single bonds connect them, which uses up 6 of our 26 electrons. So minus 6, we will have 20 valence electrons left. Step 5, distribute those 20 electrons as lone pairs, 3 per chlorine to complete each of their octets. So doing that, we have the following structure, and we will consume 18 electrons, leaving exactly 2 electrons, which become the final lone pair that will be on nitrogen atom. So count it, and the nitrogen ends up with 4 electron groups. We have 3 bonds plus 1 lone pair, and for a full octet, and every chlorine has 3 lone pairs plus 1 bond, also a full octet. And all 26 electrons are distributed, so that's our final Lewis structure for NCl3. Note that there are covalent compounds that are exceptions to the octet rule. First, we have incomplete octet. For example, boron and beryllium, both are second row elements, and they are frequently ending up surrounded by fewer than 8 electrons. For example, boron in BF3 or boron trifluoride, the boron there only has 6 electrons around it. Next, we have expanded octets. Elements from period 3 of the periodic table onward, they have empty low-lying d orbitals, which lets them accommodate more than 8 electrons. So for example, in phosphorus pentachloride, PCl5, we have 10 electrons around the central phosphorus atom. Next, third is odd electron species, also called as free radicals. So if a molecule's total valence electron count comes out as odd number, there's simply no way to pair every electron. So one electron is left unpaired. So example is nitrogen dioxide, NO2, with one unpaired electron sitting on the nitrogen atom. Sometimes, a single Lewis structure can't just describe a molecule alone, because more than one arrangement of bonds and lone pairs satisfies all rules as well. These are called your resonance structures. We have the same connectivity, same atoms in the same positions, just the electrons are arranged differently. So for example, let's consider ozone or O3. Writing the Lewis structure, first, let's count the total valence electrons. Oxygen is in group 16, so each atom has 6 valence electrons. And with 3 oxygens and no overall charge to adjust, we have 6 times 3. In total, we have 18 valence electrons. And then, the central atom will be oxygen, since all 3 atoms are the same element. And now we can line up these 3 oxygen atoms and let's place single bonds between all bonded atoms. Okay, so 2 oxygen-oxygen single bonds connect the skeleton and we use 2 electrons each. So 2 times 2, we have 4 electrons consumed and electrons remaining to be distributed will be 14 electrons. Next step, let's add lone pairs to the terminal atoms first and then the central atom. Each terminal atom already has 2 electrons from its bond, so it needs 6 more electrons, or let's place 3 lone pairs to complete its octet. So doing that, we have the following structure, and 2 terminal atoms times 3 lone pairs, we have 12 electrons that were distributed. So electrons remaining will be 14 minus 12. We have 2 electrons remaining, which become a lone pair on the central oxygen. But when we check this resulting structure, let's add up the central oxygen's electrons. We have 2 from its lone pair, 2 bond to terminal atom 1, and 2 bond to terminal atom 2. We have 6 electrons in total. So, 2 short for an octet, and there are no electrons left to add. So, in the rules, what we can do is, to fix this, we can convert one lone pair from the adjacent terminal oxygen into a second bond or a double bond, turning that single bond into a double bond, and it will not change the total electron count. So by doing that, it just relocates the lone pair into a bonding pair. And if we verify every atom, now it has full octet. So the central oxygen, it has 1 lone pair and 1 single bond and 1 double bond. So total 8 electrons in the surrounding it. For the double bonded terminal oxygen, you have 2 lone pairs and 1 double bond. So we have 8 surrounding it. And for the single bonded terminal oxygen, we have 3 lone pairs and single bond. So the octet rule is also followed. And since all 18 electrons are placed and every atom has a complete octet, this is our structure for O3. But notice that we could also use a lone pair from the other terminal oxygen, giving us a mirror image structure with the double bond on the opposite side. So both are drawn correctly, both are use 18 electrons and both give every atom a full octet. So this is an example of a resonance structure. So in writing resonance structures, note that we use double-headed arrow, and let's enclose it in brackets to indicate that these two are resonance structures. One tool to check if your Lewis structure is valid is through the formal charge. In an isolated atom, its number of valence electrons is just what the periodic table tells you. It depends on the group of that element in the periodic table. But once you have a molecule, we need a way to track how much electron density is effectively assigned to an atom, because that can shift the apparent charge on each atom. So the formula to calculate the formal charge is this. We take the atom's valence electrons as a free atom minus its non-bonding electrons. So that's the number of electrons in the lone pairs fully owned by that atom. And then minus 1/2 of its bonding electrons, since a shared pair is split evenly between two atoms. Note that formal charge is not a real physically measured charge, but it is useful because it's a tool that we use to compare competing resonance structures and figure out which one best represents the molecule. Now, let's calculate the formal charge for each atom in nitrite ion, NO2 minus. Doing the steps that we have discussed, this is the Lewis structure for NO2 minus. And in the structure, we have a double bond to the left oxygen and a single bond to the right oxygen. So to calculate for the formal charge, let's use this equation. So formal charge first of the left oxygen. For the double bonded oxygen, oxygen is group 16, so we have 6 valence electrons as a free atom, minus non-bonding electrons. So we have 4 non-bonding electrons since you have two lone pairs in this oxygen atom, minus 1/2 of its 4 bonding electrons. Since for each bond, you have 2 electrons. So calculating for the formal charge, 6 minus 4 minus 1/2 times 4, that's equal to 0. Actually, I have a technique to teach you for calculating formal charges. Instead of using this equation, we can simply start with the atom's valence electron, then minus all dots and lines surrounding the atom. So for example, let's do it in the right oxygen. We have 6 valence electrons, and then let's count. So starting from 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0, -1. So the formal charge for the right oxygen is simply -1. And then for the central atom, nitrogen, since it's in group 15, so starting from 5, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. You have a formal charge for nitrogen as equal to 0. Okay, and add 3 formal charge just together, 0 minus 1 minus 0, and you get -1 overall, which exactly matches the charge on the nitrite ion, NO2 minus. So it's actually a tool to check our structure. Our formal charges always have to sum to the overall charge of the species. Once you calculate formal charge, we can use it for picking the most realistic or most plausible Lewis structure out of several structures. So here are some guidelines so we can pick the most plausible Lewis structure. First, your formal charges always have to add up to the overall charge of the species. And if they don't, something's wrong with our structure. Second, the Lewis structure, where every atom's formal charge closest to 0, is the most stable or the most plausible structure. Third, if a negative formal charge has to appear somewhere, it should be on the most electronegative atom in the structure, since by definition, electronegative atoms tend to attract the electrons towards themselves, so they must bear the negative charge or negative sign. And fourth, you generally should not see two adjacent atoms both carrying the same sign formal charge. So two positive charges or two negative charges next to each other, it represents an unfavorable or unstable Lewis structure. Now let's use the guidelines to decide between two structures of carbon dioxide. CO2 can be drawn with two double bonds or with one triple bond and one single bond. If we assign the formal charge for each atom, so for structure 1, let's start with the central atom carbon. Carbon will have 4 valence electrons, and then let's count from there. 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. So the formal charge for carbon here is 0, and then for oxygen, starting with 6 valence electrons, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0, it will also have 0 formal charge. And then since the molecule is symmetrical, this should also have 0 formal charge. And then for structure 2, for carbon here, starting with 4, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0, you also have 0 formal charge. And then for the left oxygen, starting from 6 valence electrons, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, plus 1. And then for the right oxygen, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0, negative 1. So both structures are technically valid Lewis structures since both of them satisfy the octet rule and they use the correct total electron count. But we prefer the structure with formal charges closest to 0. And because of this, we will choose structure 1 as the most plausible structure since, as we can see here, all formal charges of the atom here are 0. Another case is for FNO. Structure 1 has a single bond between fluorine and nitrogen and a double bond between nitrogen and oxygen. So let's assign formal charge for each atom. Fluorine will have, starting from 7 valence electrons, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. So 0 formal charge. Nitrogen, starting from 5 valence electrons, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. So also 0. And for oxygen, starting from 6 valence electrons, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. So every atom's formal charge comes out as 0. So guideline 2 already favors it. So resonance form 2 flips it. So a double bond to fluorine and a single bond to oxygen. And assigning the formal charge, starting from 7 valence electrons, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. So the formal charge of fluorine here is plus 1. For nitrogen, starting from 5 valence electrons, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. So 0. And then for oxygen, starting from 6 valence electrons, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0, negative 1. Okay, and here fluorine ends up with a formal charge of plus 1 while oxygen ends up at minus 1 formal charge. As we have discussed, negative formal charges should not sit on the most electronegative atom available. And since fluorine is the most electronegative element, we cannot assign a positive formal charge to fluorine. So that makes the structure 2 a poor contributor since with structure 1, everything at 0 formal charge and would have no contradiction. So this is the most plausible structure. Let's discuss more examples. Let's draw the Lewis structure of the following compounds. First, carbon tetrachloride or CCl4. Carbon has 4 valence electrons, and then for chlorine, it has 7 valence electrons times 4, that's 7 times 4, 28, plus 4, you have 32 valence electrons in total. Carbon will be the central atom and will have 4 single bonds to chlorine. And for chlorine to follow octet, it should bear 3 lone pairs for each chlorine atom. So drawing the 3 lone pairs for each chlorine atom, that's the resulting structure. So to check, let's count the total electrons. 2, 4, 6, 8. So you have 8 for each portion. And then since you have 4 of those, 8 times 4, 32 electrons. So all of the electrons are accounted. And as we can see, all of the atoms follow octet rule. Since for chlorine, you have 3 lone pairs, so 2, 4, 6 plus 1 bonding pair. So that's 2 electrons. For this chlorine, you have 8 electrons surrounding it. And then for carbon, central atom, you have 2, 4, 6, 8. So both chlorine and carbon follow the octet rule. Next is ammonia, NH3. Nitrogen is 5 valence electrons plus hydrogen, 3 valence electrons. Since you have 1 times 3, total of 8 valence electrons. 3 NH bonds will use 6 of those and leaving 1 lone pair on nitrogen. So notice here, hydrogen never gets a lone pair since it is satisfied with just 2 electrons or 1 bond. And next is ammonium chloride. So the ammonium ion itself, NH4+, is built from covalent NH bonds. But the overall compound is ionic because that ammonium cation is paired with separate chloride and ion. So for ammonium, 5 electron for nitrogen and then NH4. So you have 4 times 1 for hydrogen. And note here, you have a charge of +1. So we will deduct 1 electron for ammonium cation. So a total of 8 electrons, and to distribute that, you have 1 bond for nitrogen and hydrogen that is already 8 electrons. And we will place it in a bracket and the total charge of the cation, which is +1. And then, let's draw the chloride and ion. Let's just show Cl- with 4 lone pairs. So this is the Lewis structure for ammonium chloride. For magnesium nitride, it's Mg3N2 and it's made up of Mg2 plus cation and N3 minus an ion. This is very simple. Let's just write the cation Mg2 plus and N3 minus an ion, and then show that N will have 8 valence electrons or 4 lone pairs. And lastly, let's place the coefficients in the formula. So our charge will be balanced. This is our final Lewis structure for magnesium nitride. For sodium carbonate, this is ionic compound also that is made up of Na plus cation and carbonate CO3 2 minus an ion. So let's just determine the total valence electrons for an ion first, carbonate. We have carbon for valence electrons, and then you have 3 oxygen atoms, so that's 3 times 6. And lastly, let's account for the charge of the anion. Since it's -2, we will add 2 electrons. So total, we have total of 24 valence electrons for the carbonate anion. So drawing the skeletal or the skeleton structure of carbonate, it's just carbon as the central atom, and then let's place first single bond for each carbon oxygen, and then let's distribute the remaining electrons as lone pairs in the oxygen. So doing that, this is our resulting structure. And notice in the last 2 electrons, we need to have an octet for the carbon. So instead of writing it as a lone pair, we will transform it as a double bond. And as we can see, if we draw this structure, the -1 charge will be in this oxygen and in this oxygen. So that is CO3 2 minus bearing -1 charge for each oxygen. And notice we can rearrange this double bond. We can place it in this oxygen or in this oxygen, and we can draw resonance structure for it. So this is the following resonance structures for carbonate. So we will enclose it in bracket and then place the total negative charge in as superscript. And lastly, let's place the cation and the coefficient. So 2Na plus and then this portion with the resonance structure of carbonate and ion. So that ends our discussion for our Lewis structure.